All right, this is a six. This is just I just want to finish my last sentence, which I don't even know what it was.
Getting a job.
Yeah, probably the most productive sector in the U.S. is medical research. I mean, the U.S. does medical research for the rest of the world. That's what I've heard. And that's not going to be funded because Republicans don't believe in medical research. But they sure believe in Wall Street. And the kinds of stuff that I see, the internet entrepreneurs, I mean, get a hold of yourself. Groupon. I mean, Groupon is the product of American genius. I mean, they give coupons. So if you want to skydive, then you get together with a lot of other idiots who wouldn't want to skydive if they couldn't get a bargain. And the company then gives a discount, hoping to keep you. Now, if you end up as a skydiver, you really like it, then that, they've done a social service. But I'm not particularly impressed with internet stuff other than giving people an opportunity to trade online cheaply. And that's wonderful. And you can go to companies' web. Can you imagine? You can go to the website in English of a Chinese company and get their quarterly earnings report. I mean, in detail, like American companies do it. I mean, that's great. And that probably was available 10 years ago. So, I suspect I'm not going to be alive in 2 years. But if I were, and you ran into me and said, well, are we still engaged in the tug of war to see who turns out to be the fucker and who turns out to be the fucky? Yeah, we'll still be doing that. And the banks will still be holding bad loans because their accountants tell them it's okay. And we'll still be underfunding medical research, and we'll still have lousy science education, and we'll still have lousy elementary education, and we'll still have people who have to be trained to work in a factory because it requires 7th grade math. And their high school degree was not associated with competence in 7th grade math. And we've got the people who believe they're rich because they're great. Well, some of them are. But I don't believe the people who really are great and really created value, I don't think they're going around saying we shouldn't be taxed because we're the chosen people. I mean, they would probably be talking about what they're doing because it's so exciting. There is one last thing. I got in an argument with a friend. I favor an egalitarian society. My values are egalitarian. I taught in college. My students were on a first-name basis with me. I mean, I wanted to be, to be friends. Or I wanted them, not necessarily to be friends, but, like they were people like I was. Except, I was a terrific teacher and they were students. I was also better than all the other teachers. So, I didn't feel like I needed to be called Mr. or Sir, or even Doctor. I have this crummy doctorate in educational psychology, a 9th grade degree from a 10th grade university. And other faculty members would say doctor. That was the crummier the school and the lower the quality of the person saying it, the more likely they are to refer to somebody else as doctor because they have a doctorate. So, an egalitarian society is something where, where people can be friends, if they're attracted to each other or if they have something in common. Something where basically distinctions aren't based on either family status or income or stuff like that. That doesn't mean that people should have equal incomes or even that it's important. What's important is essentially the values that you have. I mean, if you feel worthwhile, that's internal. That's something in you. And if you can't feel worthwhile if you don't have a high income, then you're in deep shit. Because there's a good chance you're not going to have a high income. It's not that easy. And what I found out in research is that in Vermont, over this century, where they had town meetings, the people who spoke at town meetings didn't come. They weren't upper middle class people. Some were, and some were middle class people, but some were farmers, and some were working class people. I mean, there were people who had a knack for expressing themselves among the people of a town in a town meeting, politically, and wanted to do so, and this was not closely related to income or education. Now, that Vermont is, that they had an egalitarian system. You didn't have to participate in a town meeting, but you could if you wanted to. And the people who did were not all highly educated. So, the fact that we have big income inequality in the U.S., what does that mean? Well, I don't know. I mean, we have a system that provides big rewards that people don't get in the marketplace. If you're a CEO and you make $100 million, that's because the board voted to give it to you. That's like Congress voting. That's like any other political process. That's not any different from China. That's not any different from an Arab country. On the other hand, somebody who I have a relative by marriage who's an entrepreneur. She's a headhunter. She induces stockbrokers to leave one firm and go to another firm, and does it quietly. And you know, and many people are not interested in changing. Anyway, she can get them a better deal somewhere else, and she gets a commission. And in effect, she's operating for the brokerage firm that receives the broker. And this has no social value at all. But she didn't receive a subsidy. There are plenty of headhunters that haven't made it. And she works long hours and is good with people and develops, you know, in good times and bad, does things that, you know, that help the business. So she really is the business. And she has people working for her. Okay. So, does she deserve a really high income, which she earns? And the answer is, it depends on your values. I mean, she hasn't taken anything away from me, and she hasn't used tax money, and she didn't create the financial system with brokers who you know, who fuck over their clients. And she didn't start the business with family money. So, I mean, this is an entrepreneur. Does she deserve that? I think so. I mean, I don't see any reason for disrupting it. I'd say good reason for closing down Bank of America. But that's a different matter. I mean, that's people who have lived on the public dole and who have done damage to the society and are really not very good at what they do, and they only deserve about $8,000 a year. So an egalitarian system is a set of attitudes. It's the way people treat each other. If they treat each other more or less as equals and don't draw class distinctions or family distinctions or income distinctions in individual interactions, then that's egalitarian. And that's Denmark, and that's Norway, and that's Finland, from what I've read, and Sweden. And it's not Korea, and it's not Japan, and it's not the United States. Although Americans tend to be kind of open with each other. How much time do I have?
You need to wind up.
Okay. Free at last. You're free.